Hi everyone, and welcome to the Nurturing Astrology podcast. I'm Dominique your astrologer and host. On this show, I will bring you practical guidance and insight from my own work, studies, and life experiences, as well as interview experts to bring you stellar wisdom from other teachers and professionals. I'm so glad you're here and thanks for tuning in. Okay, let's dive into today's show. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Nurturing Astrology podcast. I'm Dominique, your astrologer and host.
And I'm Melody, your astrologer educator and co-host. Welcome to our Astrology and Education series, where we explore how astrology might help reshape the future of learning. I am so excited for our interview today. Laura Webb, I first met a few years back. Wow, almost 5 or 6, when my son was in middle school. He has ADHD and he was really struggling with the level up in homework and schoolwork that middle school was requiring. We pulled him out in 7th grade to homeschool, and we were looking for extra support with his education. And we found a local education therapy company here in Santa Cruz, and we met Laura there. Laura, could you share with us a few things, your big 3, your sun, moon, and rising, bring us up to date on your current role in education, and share a little bit about your own interest in astrology?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for having me. It's so good to see you again, Melody, and to
So
meet
good.
you. This is so fun. I know, and time goes by so fast. I can't believe, all of a sudden we're out of those years. So my sun sign is a Virgo, my rising sign is a Leo, and my moon sign is a Cancer. And, just knowing those is so interesting to me. I'm late to the astrology game, but super interested and excited about it now as it relates to my work and, how I think about things and students and families in general and family dynamics. But so just in general, I've got my own thing going now. I kind of all of a sudden in the pandemic had a really big turnaround with how I operated, because I had to put my entire practice online. And so that's been trial by fire, necessary, but also so good for me in the end. I was forced, obviously, to put everything online. So now I've created this hybrid and started my own company called Learning Beyond Letters. I love my work. I always have, but I'm loving going back to in-person. And so now I have this really nice hybrid blend of in-person clients, online clients, and I kind of have clients from all over the world. And I'm starting now too to mentor and help women in their 30s, 40s, or 50s with everyone discovering we have ADHD, that that we were not diagnosed properly at our age and our appropriate age bracket. So that is something that I've also been doing called the Squirrel Club, and I'm all over the social media with that. But yeah, you might have to, because of my squirrel brain, you might have to re-ask a part of that question that I didn't answer.
Sure. Actually, I think you covered most of it. But what I would like to just highlight, because not everybody may even know what an educational therapist does. So maybe just explain a little bit more about what your services offer, because I love hearing you talk about your work, but explaining it a little bit for people who don't know would be helpful.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Yes. I love that you said that, because it is like, to me and my everyday life. And then when I do explain it, it's not a tutor. And that's kind of the most closely related thing. And I started out as a tutor, but it's a specialized degree. And basically my niche now, having done this for over 20 years now, is I have dyslexia and ADHD, and I've been a seeking how my brain works and how can I help other kids like this, starting out as a tutor. But I've been seeking, how can I make this better for myself? And when I found that answer, I started going in the direction of, okay, I need to do this for other people. But it is, so now I specialize in dyslexia, ADHD, and autism. And, all of those things together they're niche because you can learn how to and even get wonderful trainings on how to help someone read. And there's science of reading research now, and it's so great that you can go through the trainings. Are they'll show a video with a child just sitting beautifully and politely across from the table and receiving all the information and giving the answers when you ask. And it's so wonderful, but it's not real life, and it's not any of my students anyway. So I have this funnel of I know how to help a kid learn how to read if they haven't gotten it, say by, second, third grade, we're really struggling. But also like, okay, what else is going on with your brain? What's going on as a whole with you? And how can I, work to your strengths and weaknesses? So educational therapy as a practice is how can I take the educational trauma that you've endured because we are not, in our system of education, we haven't gotten down to the point where we're really looking at the individual yet. We don't have the resources, we don't have the time. My sister is a public school teacher, love it. They're just overextended, overworked. And so we have a lot of trauma, not intentionally, really good intentions teachers. And so they come in and it's like, oh my gosh, okay, we need to relearn everything about how we're instructing this child. And that's a bigger job than just reteaching content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. I don't know if you've been able to listen to any of our previous episodes, but you are absolutely hitting the same things we've been talking about the system of education and how it's a lot of pressure on teachers, and it's not the teacher's fault, but they are not able to serve a lot of the individual children and their needs because there's just so much pressure put on for performance.
I loved your podcast with the Little Mystics owner.
Yes, Danielle.
Oh my gosh, that was really powerful. And the idea of rethinking education is what I connected with that episode because we need to rethink how we're doing things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right too. The idea of us relearning like how we teach, we have to reestablish how we teach because how we learn is being so discovered how different that is and how individual that is. And because the systems don't support the ability to focus on an individual child unless they have, like Melody was saying, like an IEP or they have to do those things. But there's so many beyond that aren't getting the services. And the teachers, I really feel like our goal is now we want to support the teachers and the educators finding resources and ways of doing this and we think obviously astrology can be a way in, and even though it's kind of unconventional, but I think we're all on the same page and there's so many people out there that feel this way and see this. I hope that we're putting out a little bit there to support that and get people thinking outside the box. You know what I mean?
I would love to hear the story of how you found astrology.
Yes.
And then how you integrate it into your work. And if that's too much, just start with how you found astrology, and then I'll come back to that question.
Perfect.
Absolutely. And then I would love to circle back about how to help teachers too, because I have an idea on that one. So I was in a huge transition period in about 2018. I got divorced. I moved in with a dear friend, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened. It was just the best. I mean, I think everyone should have a divorce buddy. And it was really like such a special time in our lives. She is a very high-powered, beautiful, and amazing manager of a hospital, and just the really high-paced, high-stress, but so smart job of. And she was into astrology and just how to manage people, how to identify their sign. And then it's a way of like, okay, well, that makes sense for them. And maybe they fit that sign and what it means for them. Maybe they don't, but it did help her to know about people better. And so just hearing her talk on a daily basis and running down the day, I learned so much. And she would just, everything she said about just a general way of thinking about people in this categorization way was so correct that it just started to help me. So I used it, I started using it in my job and with the kids and the families and the family dynamics and integrating that knowledge just from diving deeper in with her about problem solving, in a situation at work or a situation with a student without naming names, of course, and it just helped so much. So now, when I have a new student, I always get, of course, we get the birth date on the paperwork, and I just clock that and go, okay, like back of my now, and it's very like I don't have the full chart, of course, and I'm newer to all of the deeper stuff, but just knowing their sun sign, and then eventually, as I get to know the family, it's like, oh, it's mom's birthday, we're gonna celebrate, and so I always do find out when the family is. And then it all becomes clear, and it's to me very interesting when I have a parent that has just been really struggling with like the paperwork or the financials or the being on time or all the things that I know for certain signs are a struggle, and that helps me so much to then offer more support to support my clients that really are also struggling with some of those things. Not just, okay, moms saying they also feel like they have ADHD, even though we're underdiagnosed as a people, as a womankind in our 40s in this age group. But it's like just a way of me knowing how to support better.
Mhm. That's amazing. That's amazing. I love the practicality as well as the individualized approach. And it doesn't have to be just individualized to the child as they present, but to this additional personality type information that just helps you give a little more grace when needed or a little more structure when needed. I love it. Thank you.
It's so warming my heart to hear you talk, to hear an educator and someone who's serving to be using it in these even the simple basic way, because we're always saying it doesn't take a lot, just the simplest little knowing and awareness can make such huge differences in how we approach and offer more service or support. And it just warms my heart to know that there are educators out there like you that are doing it already in the simplest ways. And that's why we want to talk to you, because we want to show the world and more people that it is possible and it doesn't have to be as difficult or as overwhelming as astrology can be,
Yeah.
right? How much it is, especially as a newbie that you are, right?
Yeah.
I,
If they start, and I'll get recommendations for a podcast, and you have to be careful because sometimes you send people into a world where there's a lot of vocabulary that I don't understand and it doesn't make any sense to me and it's not helpful in any way.
sure. Yeah.
And so having anyone break down the pieces, and that's just what my friend did, is just tell me the pieces that you're seeing. And anytime anyone new came into the story on the couch at night, it was just, well, what's that? Okay, well, what sign are they?
Right.
And then she knew, and we researched more about, okay, well, knowing our household dynamics or knowing my sign and how it would relate with the client or with, so just how to approach. And I do that anyway. That's like my main gift, I'd say, is to approach with caution, but to take a student that I can catch the vibe pretty easily and then be like, okay, you need me to approach you in this way. And I try to gather all that before they even come into my office. Like if
Mhm.
they are autistic, if they are ADHD, and I do like to look at the birth sign as part of just those pieces of information. Like, how am I going to approach this? Do we need structure? Do we need more fun? Do we need novelty? Do we need, like, how are we going to structure this time together so they feel good here?
I would love to hear some examples. And as part of that, um, have you found combinations prevalent between maybe specific sun signs or maybe just elements and then the diagnoses that they received? Like how does that
Mhm.
tend to work, or do you see any that are particularly more prevalent? And if it's not a prevalence thing, like how would you tailor some something? I'm super curious about the nuts and bolts.
I think we don't have enough data for what the diagnosis under and sifting underneath the umbrella of a diagnosis of what's the signs of it. But that would be really interesting to get some of that data. But so for example, if someone has a Pisces sun sign and they have dyslexia and they have ADHD. Right. So we have got like those three things. And I can see that in the paperwork. We're already in. I know, right? So
Yeah.
first off, I can make that child feel comfortable by just saying, okay, probably we're going to sit down and we're going to just talk. And I'm not going to be able to come in with like, here's what we're going to do. Where I'm just going to come in, hi, like, and sometimes, especially with the Pisces, they have this like otherworldly knowing and like a eye contact that is unusual for a child, right? So you just kind of sit with them and really they need to be seen. And then, and then it's like, okay, well, now we might approach this scary thing we called reading, but we might not. We might just play some games that are hidden skills that I can kind of slip in there and we can just call it, that we did something, but it's just a game. So it has to be sneaky. But if it's and to your question, like the air signs are super chatty. The water signs have all the feelings, right? So I do know the sort of those things. I'm an earth sign, so it's like, let's get down to business. Why am I here? What do you want from me? Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, my other sort of profile might be like, I have autism. I'm quiet, but I need to know what it is that this entire interaction is going to be like and what exactly you want from me. And I'll make a visual schedule. We will check it off. And then, depending on their sign within that, just knowing more about their, I don't want to say brand, but their kind of autism, right?
Yeah.
But it is so helpful to know within each one. If we have three main ones that I work with, dyslexia, ADHD, and autism, it's really, really helpful to know within each one of those. So I kind of do like those umbrellas, and then I'd say the signs are sort of raindrops underneath those umbrellas.
Ooh, I like that. I do believe that there needs to be research. And part of this Uranus and Gemini that we've got a taste of and that we know we're going to be heading into in the next 8 years, like even Danielle spoke about in her interview, this kind of split in the education systems and thinking outside the box of how we actually do educate. And part of that would be doing research projects and taking people like yourself who are using it in just a simple ways and seeing if it can help. I feel like we have to do a little proof of concept work, if that makes sense, right? And finding ways to have educators and people use it in finite ways and gather insight and do that research to show that it is valuable. And I think that's part of our mission long term is to show that this is one tool, not the only tool, like you said. It's part of the information you gather. And if this is a piece that can give you more information to help you, why not use it? Even if it seems like it's unconventional outside the box, that's what we're doing. Uranus and Gemini is start to think outside the box and try new things. So like, do you know a little bit about the Uranus and Gemini transit or have any thoughts about how that could possibly influence education or learning?
I am so excited because my new physical office that is serving kids in person is in a collective called Kismet Collective. And it is so much fun because I have all these practitioners working in the same space. And down the hall is yoga class, sound baths, anything I could want to do. And then next to me, and we've got a Reiki energy where I can get a massage or a Reiki worker. the parents can come in. I can take their kid and send the mom off for any number of services that they might need. We also have a sound bed that is, I know,
Sign
that,
me up.
yeah, sound bed is an emotional regulation experience, like somatic shake, but it has a sound experience along with it. It's amazing. But the Opus sound bed you can book, and that's just like $15. Now, so
Mm.
I know, but so the problem that I have then is okay. So I'm in this like place where you can land softly, right? But my new thing is, how do we teach from intuition? And that's
Mm.
my whole goal, is to help teachers, and in my role it would be to really exit a traditional role, because
Right.
those are toxic. I mean, sometimes they're not, but if we want to get out of that situation, they're very conditioned in a certain way to give of self without, without taking, and without own self-care. So without abandoning yourself, how do you teach by intuition? Take the time and not push your agenda, right? So because they've been taught and trained to push an agenda, and just because out of survival to do so. And I just think of my sister, because she is a public school teacher, and she probably will be exiting. She's been talking about it, because it's getting really, really difficult, right, in the current climate, more and more and more. And so, okay, so if we want to get out and we want to learn how to teach by intuition, which I've been doing this whole time, I do see that shift. It takes a lot of coaching for a person that has been conditioned that to approach a child in a different way, right?
Yeah.
But I have teacher trainings, and I loved teaching teachers how to do it differently, how to do it 101, how to be intuitive, how to just abandon all agenda and do what that child needs. Yeah, and the professional developments that I've done that I continue to do have really led me to have so much face time with these teachers. And they love the information, they love knowing more about neurodivergence, but then it's like, how do they implement it in the classroom? And I'm like, I got
Right.
ideas, but as far as if you can, I mean, it's kind of up to you and your principal and how. So yeah, but I love doing PDs at small private schools, and but I've done them all over Santa Cruz and all over. I can do them online. There's lots of lots
Well,
of.
I think that the Uranus and Gemini over the next 8 years is going to actually start splitting off. We are going to have different pathways of learning and education, and we're going to need unique teachers for every one of those pathways. And all teachers, in my opinion, have got their wings already by choosing that profession. And we do, what are public schools going to become? We don't know. And I have a lot of friends who are public school teachers as well. And they could even love this, but again, they're locked in, right? And so I wonder, can we re-inspire or help even support from the outside in the people in the teachers in that profession who can't leave it, or, don't want to abandon that ship, but at the same time help forge these new potential pathways so that kids who need those special one-on-ones get it and that special service. Because like Melody said, you can't diagnose, even though we're all kind of have our own different learning styles. Teachers can focus on particular ones that need it, but then at the expense of potentially other students who need focus, right? So that's the thing where it's like giving those services where this is where my child's going to thrive, just like it's a Waldorf school or a Montessori. Like you pick the lane and the teaching style that's going to suit your child. And if you know your child and you know either their diagnosis or their astrology in some regards, that's going to help inform you the best way to go.
The school choice for your own child is one thing,
Right.
and we love teachers at public schools because they do have those rules in place. If you do have an IEP, they do have laws and rules in place to help your child, and they must do it in a certain way. And then there's risks for, the private schools. Often they're learned and amazing, and also they don't have to by law, right? So there's
Ah.
this choice where it's like it is an environment, but you might still need one-on-one help. So that is a tough choice. That's another thing we do as educational therapists is counsel parents about where and what to do, where to go for help. And if you do choose the expensive private school, it does not mean that you might not also need one-on-one help in addition. So it's right. But because sometimes your child just needs one-on-one, quiet, intuitive space, and we all can picture a child that's just true for. Yeah. Right. And they might have a number of things going on, sensory issue or whatever, but their signs can absolutely make that more necessary. Yeah. And that's kind of what educational therapy is gathering, everything you can get your hands on and creatively making a plan for an individual child. So that's what I love about it. I feel like I make a witch's brew for each. I'm just like out there like, okay, I'm going to take this piece and that piece and that piece because they don't need that and they don't need that piece. But that's why it can, get results faster, is because it's totally individualized.
One of the things that you speak to is something also near and dear to my heart, which is know thyself as the first step. That's what we use astrology for as the pinnacle. Even with conscious parenting, you have to know yourself before your child so you can understand those differences. Any relationship, teacher student, husband wife, right? Friendships. So this idea of knowing thyself being so important. And how do you see astrology helping us kind of return to that more self-driving, curious driving, self-motivated learning, and how astrology and the idea of knowing ourselves, how valuable that is?
So huge. Just that learning about yourself in different ways, in different language, and with the students, and circling back just quickly to teachers, how do we not get overstimulated ourselves in the teaching moment? Because I feel like most teachers are on an overstimulation overload most of the time, and decompressing from that. Even when I have students leave and go to a homeschool model of school, I always say there's a 3 to 6 month decompression period.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to unlearn everything that you've been operating on. So just interesting to know, we have to regulate thyself first, right? And then know, okay, now know myself. And there's like a brain body thing where it's like we have to know how to regulate our body in order to then teach from a place that's going to get anywhere, right? And especially those Pisces, they can see right through you. I mean,
it's true.
If you come at them with anything but full embodiment, no,
Yeah, it's so true. Me and Melody did another talk just recently about the teacher-student relationship, and understanding yourself as a teacher through the astrology can really help you know how you approach your classroom, how you approach your work as an educator, and then being able to understand even those basics of a sun sign for your student. Realize, oh, okay, like that Pisces Virgo axis. If I'm a Pisces teacher, a Virgo teacher, and I'm dealing with a Pisces child, like there's an awareness there that you automatically can make adjustments to better connect and work intuitively as a teacher to better serve and educate them. And when you do that, like our interview with Cornelia, you're making a connection, an emotional feeling connection with that child. They feel seen, they feel heard, they feel understood, that you care, they feel like you care. And then they automatically open up to wanting to learn from you, trusting you. You're building trust in a relationship, which we know is foundational. So they will then open up, share with you, ask more questions maybe, then you can help them even further. Or being there, having this ability to make learning actually enjoyable for them and fun, which they be love of learning because they feel like they're cared about in the classroom, right?
And you can call it magic, whatever. I mean, I have so many people say, and I'm like, well, if you want to know my magic recipe, like we're talking about it right now, it's just there's a reason why you can be successful with a student or not. And
That's right.
sometimes in the past, I kind of thought to myself, I heard the word code switching, and I thought, I'm kind of doing that, I guess, with every student. And I thought, right? Is that okay? Like, because in that context, it can be kind of offensive if you're code switching when you're talking to people. But so I thought, no, I'm adjusting my energy and aligning with each individual student. So whenever there's new vocabulary, I like to just kind of integrate it and say, is that true for me, or what's good about it, what's different about it? But no, just knowing, like, how can I align myself? And even before going into a new, like, automatically shaking or like, okay, I'm switching from that student I just had to a different energy and a different student. And so I always have 10 minutes before each student. But, it's just, I personally, because I always knew I was an empath, but just having a whole classroom sounds like a literal nightmare to me. Like there's too much going on that for me to intake. I have sensory issues already. So
I love that. I love the ideas that you just presented. And it makes me think of my passion for astrology literacy and teaching people from the tiniest little ones all the way up that astrology is a language, and helping each successive generation be able to read their charts a little bit better. So no one's dependent on astrologers. I always think you need to consult with an astrologer when you're lost in your own forest. But absolutely, to be able to read for yourself in your own chart is so important. It's my personal passion. But what I'm also hearing you saying is you're translating. Like code switching is a synonymous with translating, and I hear you talking about translating a a traumatic event that's supposed to help a child move forward in life and helping them receive it in the language energetically that they need.
exactly.
Which leads me to a question. You've used the word categories in some of the things that we talked about before, as far as different learning differences, neurodiversity, as well as sun signs. There's a lot of stigma around labeling for diagnoses, and there's a lot of stigma on astrology. Um, how do you see yourself overcoming both of those stigmas? And again, I keep presenting you with these really complicated questions. So if you just want to take it bit by bit, that's fine.
No, I love that. I feel like I've been doing a lot of work of overcoming all kinds of stigmas and helping families do that. But more so just in the last 5 years of like being a woman in an aging way. You know what? This is me. I don't care anymore. Like
Yeah.
this is how my brain works. And so one of the taglines of my company is radical brain acceptance.
Ooh, I love that.
Brain acceptance. And I feel like astrology is radical soul acceptance.
Ooh.
And so if we need both of those, we have to connect the soul and the brain, right? And so when I come at a student with a soul-led focus, just knowing their brain can help me lead them back into their soul, into their body, and then the magic happens. Like we can connect on that level. It's not actually magic. It's just we're using intuition, right? But to overcome all the stigmas is a daily practice. I mean, just for myself. So I have a women's club for women of 30s, 40s, and 50s called the Squirrel Club. We're all squirrel brains. I call it that for a reason. It's not ADHD women's group. It's just squirrels. We're just squirrels trying to live in this world, right? And that way you can kind of get people that don't want to associate or identify as ADHD either yet or in general. And you can
Mhm.
just relate as a silly little squirrel that has a squirrel brain. And that work for me has been huge. I have accounts where I just post deer squirrel and I say whatever the thing is. I'm talking to myself. I mean, so it's just parts work. It's just me going, okay, well, this is true for me, and knowing myself better. And as an educator, everyone knowing yourself better is only going to help you with
Mhm.
being authentic with other with your students.
Amazing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ah, I love that. Radical soul acceptance. That is why we do astrology and why we serve clients is so they can accept. It's the first thing astrology is. It's validating and helpful for self-acceptance and self-love. And then reminding them, but this isn't an excuse. This is a powerful insight into you, and you can co-create, you can make choice with this knowledge.
Yeah.
And but it is about acceptance and self-compassion and self-love that allows you to own that and then engage with the world and others from that place that then cultivates that in others. I mean, that's the most beautiful part about astrology to me and what drives me. And it's like going to be a life's work to try and dispel the taboo around it. And
Yeah.
even Melody had said this one time in one of our earlier talks, like maybe in the foundation one, about it taking its rightful place again. You know, that in history, like and where it comes from, it was here before all of this, and so it's like, can we put it back in its rightful seat of being of having the appreciation of its benefits and its resource for support for humanity.
I
Yeah.
feel the exact same way about dyslexia. The exact words you
Mhm.
could insert dyslexia for
Yes.
Tell me why.
well, the stigma behind it, right? And just me knowing for 22 years of my life, not knowing that I had dyslexia and white knuckling through school, through college, doing well because of my social skills, like going, to groups and really using resources. Not knowing why I had to work 3 times as harder though for the same amount of work,
Mhm.
not knowing why I don't enjoy reading. I just don't. And, as a mid 20s, I found this program that I do that is Orton Gillingham based, but it was a lifesaver for me. And that's how I knew it was going to work and how it did work for every student from then. But, and that was 20 years ago. So, well, 15 years ago. But knowing that from that point, it had helped me with a lot of deconstruction and years spent trying to accept that and
Mhm.
and turn it to a good thing. The younger I can get a student to accept and know that it's a good thing,
Mhm.
the longer they have with that positive feeling of I have a dyslexic brain. And I feel like it's probably the same with like, just information about your sign, information about your soul. Like, okay, great. It doesn't mean it's not good or bad. Like if you tell someone you're a Virgo, it shouldn't be like, oh, okay,
Right.
Mm.
I'm
Right.
devastated, like,
Absolutely.
and that's how I feel like dyslexic brain is. It's not a devastating diagnosis. It's
Right.
actually an awesome brain. It's just
Yeah.
Yep.
invented literally different.
Absolutely. And that's why we even talk about doing children's charts. A lot of astrologers don't want to touch, looking at a child's chart with a 10-foot pole, but yet they will have struggles with that child, the connection. And then as soon as you can ethically, starting with temperament and these ways in and giving just these simple things, even Melody, you had said the early readings you got, the simplest nuggets without projecting or, predicting and all that stuff gave priceless insight and guidance for a parent. So
Yeah.
it's another thing I want to encourage astrologers to not be afraid to look at a child's chart. You just have to do it in a very ethical way and with a purpose, right? And support. So you would look for how to see their learning style and their sun sign itself or their Mercury, like being able to see those basic things or elementally what that could mean for their expression. There's opportunity there, and astrology is just a tool that brings in more information to help guide and inform. At the same way, knowing this diagnosis, knowing that you're just, oh, it makes so much sense. Just like when you hear a chart, oh my God, that makes so much sense now. Now I know what to do. Now I can seek out service. Now I can seek out resources. Now I can make a different choice. Now I can find something that works for me or give myself more grace and compassion and self-love and acceptance, radical acceptance. I love that. It speaks to me too about Uranus and Gemini.
Yes.
Radical acceptance of brains is like, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Uranus and Gemini right there. Like you're
Sure.
right. Radical acceptance of the way our minds work, our brains work, and the radical changes in the way we're going to be connecting as things change through social media, through language, teaching, education, AI, like all of this tech stuff. Like there's going to be so many radical changes. Maybe that breaking open will make room and space for us to also have people like yourself and this work break through and find its place, find its way of being of service to people that are drawn to it. If you're
Yeah,
an educator who's into astrology, like bringing your two passions together, how much fun would that be?
absolutely. And you probably know more than me. That would be invaluable. I think one thing that came up, I mean, I love that book, Broken Open. If you haven't read it, oh my God. But but the idea of it's really just a perception
Mm-hmm.
of what your child may be. So
Right.
you're getting all this good information, and sometimes it's like devastating because you had a preconceived idea of what was going to happen in their life,
Mhm.
how things were going to be for them, and
Mm-hmm.
moving target of perfect student, perfect child. And so I almost feel like it's so hard. One thing I've in my life just recently been accepting of is that the work is never done on myself.
Mhm.
Amen.
Be done spiritually, I'll never be done with this work on myself on this planet. And that seems a little tiresome to me. Like I'm like, oh, okay, but I was expecting to be perfect, have 100% grade already in my journey and be done and just tap out. Like, and so knowing that we're all here to have this hard journey, it is hard no matter. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
if you have the perfect straight A's, it's still difficult. So one thing I want to say is you're just learning information about your child, but you have to let go of your own preconceived notions of how life was going to go for them. And I
Yep.
think that's what you're talking about is just you have this information that you're gathering. And as an educator or a parent or anybody interacting with a child, right, is like when parents are moving into any kind of other alternative idea of school. So a lot of times in public school, it's like, you're going to school, it's going to be this way. And they had an experience, no matter what it was, they have this preconceived notion of the track that will happen that they go to public school to get. And then they have to, when we talk about alternatives, and just the idea, I just say, well, you're just in research mode. We're going to be in research mode. But in that, always, and this is so, I mean, over years, always, the question is, but what about prom? So that just tells us there's a fixed goal that you have to go through. And it's, it is kind of America in general, like that we have
Mhm.
this education experience and of what high school is too.
Yep.
And then
Not every kid wants to go to prom.
and maybe we're have a good 4 years instead of or education experience for all that time except for and not do it for the one night of picture. We have to let
Right.
go. That's the thing, is just we just have to let go of what we thought was going to happen, right?
Yes.
It's just different now.
Hmm.
We have so much more information. We have
I,
integrated it.
Yes. Yes. I've seen so many of my parenting friends approach uh things with their children and whatever their struggles are from this very like set idea of, well, my experience is what I'm supposed to provide for my kid. And unless you've had a bad experience, you don't question that. People with bad experiences, of course, they want to provide something different for their child. But if you've had either a good experience or just you never questioned what your experience was. You're just kind of trying to provide that. And it gets into this very fixed mindset. And it takes a challenging child, a child who's willing to challenge you, which that's rare too. Difficult children are out there, but like they don't always run up to their parents and are like, I want a different kind of schooling. They don't even know that that's a possibility.
No, they're just like,
This
like,
is wrong. Something's wrong. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
so
I think awareness is key. I always say observation is step one. But the
Mhm.
thing that jumped out too was Gemini's curiosity. And parents, it would be helpful if they became more curious about the education experience. I find myself asking a lot of questions of my son of what it's like now. And I'll say, when I was in school, right? This is how it was, right? And what is it like now? And sometimes, with a teenager, it's not hard, it's not easy to get that information, but what they want to share. But the idea of being more curious, parents being more curious and open, moving into that mutability of Uranus and Gemini, right? Of opening up to paying more attention, listening, asking questions instead of and getting out of that perception of what something should be or their ideal, or when they find that budding up, asking why am I so concerned about this,
right.
Mhm.
right? What is that coming from in me? And that comes back to that know thyself. If you're struggling with something your child's doing, there needs to be a little bit of a mirror here about why you're struggling with that. Is that really about the child, or is that you? That's something that's going on within you, an expectation. And we also talk a lot about perception in astrology, and that a child's chart, when you look at their moon or different things, those are their perceptions of us. They have a perception of their teacher, of their way they're being educated. And that may not always be the way that the parent or the teacher is showing up, but it's awareness of how they may be perceiving you as well, right? And breaking those perceptions. So I'm feeling again this mutability energy that we're going to be in, and a lot of air energy is just a lot of let's get curious. Let's open our minds and broaden our thoughts around what teaching is, what education is, and what's the best, what kinds of pathways, and how we can connect with our kids and be more curious and ask more questions.
So I love your Dominique statement about just being curious, but and if you don't get answers from them because they're hard to talk to and they don't want to tell you, right? It is really hard to know, but asking even other adults, other teachers, other parents, like what is it like getting in there, involved in it's so hard though because it's hard even to understand the dynamics. It's just so different now. And that's
Mhm.
me being like in it, right? So I can see more. But if you start from the idea of these are little beings on a journey,
Mhm.
and I think that let go of this, a lot of parents have a lot of shame in themselves and in their own learning journey. And if they can let go of their shame around their own brain and
Mhm.
their own right, and your part, and you see your partner, you have to accept your partner. This person is a combination of you two, right? A combination of brains. And so
Yeah.
you kind of have to accept each other and yourself first, let go of shame that you couldn't provide or that you haven't done what you needed to do for this little person. The answer is like most of the time you have done everything that you could, that you are able to. You're a good parent. You come into my office specifically, all the parents that come, you're a good parent. You need more information, and you need to let go of the shame that you have not done something so you can just get the information and move forward because it is so difficult. All of it is so difficult, right? But I see so much shame.
So much to unpack there. And I don't know that we even have time, but I can see how just as humans, uh, having a checklist is comforting. Knowing that you're doing a good job because X, Y, and Z is super comforting. Um, and yet, parenting is definitely not standardized. And we're seeing what standardization is doing to teachers as humans. So,
Mhm.
so without standardization, how can we put in place, do you have recommendations of ways we can implement radical acceptance, not as a standard, but as like something to be, what's the word, organized?
Oh, I love that, because I'm a Virgo. So
Oh, yes, I do.
I think that your question is like just boils down to curiosity, right? Like
Mm,
just being curious instead of shoulds everywhere and like my if you have an ADHD student, that is a whole thing that I'm really doing a lot of work on this middle school generation from pandemic times. So 5 years ago is when they were in the pandemic. So, around third, fourth year. So this middle school current generation, they're really struggling. And some of them also have ADHD and some of them don't. But just so so as a whole, we have all these parents that are just, but also technology is kind of, and it's so interesting. I'm sure Dominique has things to say about the technology because it's kind of messing everybody up. It's not fully streamlined enough to make everything easier in middle school, and it's not out of it enough for us to just do pencil and paper and assignments and turn in things the way that we used to. So it's like this high half and half, and it's making middle school miserable for everybody because nobody knows how to use any of the things yet. And I mean, my niece has 7 classes, and they all do things differently, like portals, different logins, like everything. That's
Oh,
a,
yeah.
that's an executive function nightmare. Are you kidding?
and it's not within the capabilities developmentally of middle school kids
And
at
then
all.
a ridiculous amount of things. so so really we could count them all. So then we're just thinking of like, okay, how do we get curious about helping these kiddos know that it's not them, that they're not broken. It is this current system is hard, and it's and then also, okay, within that, how can you maneuver your best every day, right? It's very difficult right now.
So is, yeah.
Maybe there'll also be this force of, because of the changes and because of these new tech and awarenesses, parents are also going to have to become more aware. And we always say that education starts at home. It starts with the parent. It starts with the environment at home. So maybe this would actually, what's happening in the world will force parents to actually, in these next generations, to actually be more involved. I just feel like it's so out of our realm, and not even to think about like the Pluto and Aquarius and like things are clearly all the systems are breaking down. I feel like me and Melody are very idealistic, and we talk a lot about the stuff that could be and we know could help, but we always have to go, but at the same time, like, why wouldn't, maybe it wouldn't work, and why, and in what context, and let's be realistic about the challenges. Even though it seems extremely valuable, it feels like a mountain, like insurmountable in some ways. So that's why I feel like it's not really about, like you said in the beginning, Laura, the traditional systems. It's going to be outside the traditional systems. It's going to be some unconventional, different way that this happens. Even though we all know it's useful, I don't think any of us can really predict yet how this might
Yeah.
unfold.
I love your idealism, Dominique. And as you know, we're both so passionate about education, and it's super easy for us to kind of sit here and go, education has to start at home. And yet, then I think to myself, we
Yep.
just said people have to know themselves, and a lot of charts just aren't oriented towards providing education. And that's where people like Laura come in. And
Yep.
I'm so thankful
Yeah.
we had you here today.
I love this conversation because it really is making me reaffirm like I love taking care of families And in my family, I have, these really deep roots to all kinds of neurodivergence. And then my teacher roots. I mean, my stepmom was a superintendent and my sister's a teacher. And so I see these problems. It frustrates me in the public school system. And so my idea in my small way is, okay, I'm going to support the teachers, but I want to support them in my own little controlled little environment. I'm going to take them out and I'm going to show them my way, So I'm not thinking anymore anyway. I do professional developments at schools, but I can't take on the whole of the education system. So my idea is like, I'm going to take them and I'm going to show them how it could be individually. And then I'm going to take the moms, I'm going to relax them, provide them with a safe landing space, and really take care of them whilst taking their child and seeing them for who they are.
Beautiful.
What a gift. Can you tell the audience where they can find you?
Yeah.
So everything is on Learning Beyond Letters, and I'm on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the things, Facebook. Gosh, what else is there? But I am a little bit smidge addicted to all the social media because it's hard to regulate. But then everything else is on my website, which is learningbeyondletters.com. And there are teacher programs, and they're individual. Sometimes I have small groups, but it's really just based on how can I help you, and do you want to get out? And if you don't, you would just want to do it after school, that's fine. If you want to make a career out of it, you can. So tell me what you need and we can work together. It's not under me. It's just here. Let me share with you, and we can work together for usually 3 months, and I can just kind of launch you. But then in person, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I have my office at Kismet Collective, which is a super beautiful, inviting space with other therapists. They're doing all different kinds of things in there, and you can come in and really be cared for while taking your child to have their appointments.
Awesome. If you love all the stuff you're hearing about Laura out there listening now, go check out her website, learningbeyondletters.com, but also let us know in the comments your thoughts about this conversation and what we're talking about here, your other questions, things you'd love for us to touch on, or, have her back to discuss with you. But I have a feeling you will be seeing her in our sphere because this was great. And I feel like you're very much in alignment. And I'm so glad that I got to meet you today. Thank you, Melody, for inviting her.
Reconnect.
Yeah, this was beautiful. And we've already mentioned a lot of the different shows that we've talked about. Me and Melody have been doing this for a couple months now, and there's a lot of great thought starters and interviews that we've got already out. So please go back and check them out and like and subscribe. Let us know if you're, loving this content, and also on board with this mission with us, right?
Yes.
Because we are definitely looking to build it and support educators and teachers and parents and the future of all of our babies and young adults and adults, right?
Who wants to radically accept their brain? Who's in?
I am.
Yes. All in.
That's awesome. Thanks, Laura, so much for being here.
So nice to talk to you and reconnect with you, Melody. This was so fun.
Thank you.
Until next time, everyone, take care. Thanks for listening, and I hope you gained some great astrology insight and inspiration from today's show. I'd love to hear, so drop me a comment or share in a review. Check out the show notes for all the details and links about today's episode, how you can connect with me on social or work with me directly. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Take care and keep nurturing the nature, friends. I'll see you on the next episode.